Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tommy Marks. I'm the director of the Minority Business Development Agency's Federal Procurement Center. Want to welcome you here today for our workshop that we're co-hosting with Proposal Helper. This will be about the outcome of based business development and capture strategy for government contractors. The Federal Procurement Center is part of a consortium of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council, which is located in Silver Springs, Maryland. We're actually located in Alexandria, Virginia, off of the King Street Metro. Been in this area for over 5 years, and we specialize in business consultation with minority businesses in the federal government space. So again, welcome to the workshop. In a moment, Ms. Rena Mattia from Proposal Helper will come on and she will take us through the workshop. And I want to thank her up front for giving us her time. I know she's busy. And thank my colleague, Gail Bassett, who was convinced me that we need to have this today. And so without further ado, Rena, I will turn it over to you so that we can listen to your words of wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. And thank you, Gail, for the invitation, the opportunity, and introducing me to Tommy, your team. So really excited to do this. Looking forward to sharing my experiences. And I'll just give a little bit of background about Proposal Helper. Proposal Helper has been in business now for 10 years, and we support medium, small to mid-sized companies with business development and proposal development solutions. And although that puts us squarely in the government contracting space, we do quite a bit of commercial contracting as well with large banks, shipping corporations, oil and gas. So although a majority of our business are government contractors, and that's going to be the focus of my message today, is on government contracting. I've been in this industry for over 28 years now. Proposal Helper has over 60 employees. We don't use consultants in our company. So when we work with clients, we use employees only in the company. So I'm looking forward to sharing what we have learned across the board. We have worked with startups, 2-person company, all the way up to 700-800 person companies. And there are lots of lessons learned. One of the benefits of working with a company like ours is we bring the collective knowledge and experience from across the industry. And we see success. We see companies, some of them who are doing it beautifully, they're doing it just right. And then there are lessons learned from companies who are not quite there yet. So as I go through, I'll be sharing my experiences with you, some strategies, and just feel free to ask questions. I think the chat box is available to participants, if I'm not mistaken. So please feel free to pose your questions in there. The training topics today, I've broken it down into 3 modules. Module 1 being business strategy, business development, business strategy, the very upfront work. So we're going to talk a lot about that. And then we go into capture strategy. So we are going to discuss business development, capture management, and then going into proposal strategy and proposal management. A lot of times the smaller businesses or companies who are on the commercial side moving into into government contracting really don't understand the basic terminology. They confuse business development with sales, business development with capture. It does not mean the same person cannot do both, but the responsibilities in the 2 roles are very different. And how all that plays into a strong winning proposal, I will explain that as I go. So at the end of each module, I'd like to stop and answer some questions. There are also some exercises throughout. There are some poll questions. and some hands-on exercises that I've built into this. So there may be momentary silence during the presentation, but we do have 2 full hours. So I do want to make sure that I give everybody the opportunity to do things while it's fresh in your mind. So let's start with module 1, our business strategy. So the very first thing we're going to do is, if we can have the first poll question for the audience. Jacob, I'm not sure if you're handling the poll questions, how you're doing this, but if you can have the first poll question go up for the audience. And I want to start with this just to baseline all of our understanding. What do you think business strategy is? You'd be surprised how many times I don't get, oh, here, I'm able to launch the poll. How many times I get a roundabout answer, or really it's, confused answers from a lot of folks. So let's see, let's keep this poll open for a little bit and see what answers we get. And I'm trying to figure out where I see all the participants. Fortunately, I'm stuck with my own face and I'm not liking it. All right, we'll just give it a few more seconds here to answer the poll question. What do you think business strategy is not? What is it not? It's a negative question, intentionally. All right, we still have answers coming in, so let me give it a few more seconds. I love the participation. You have an active audience on a dreary day outside, so that's actually a good thing. All right, I'm going to end the poll in just a few seconds. I see more answers coming in. All right, let's look at this. So I'm sharing the results with all of you. 30% of you think that business strategy is not just built once as part of the initial business plan. One person thinks strategy is not about fundamentals, not necessarily long term. Four participants believe strategy means strategy remains unaffected by innovation. 17 folks believe that business strategy is not what it is not. It is not, strategy is not a plan. It's a framework for decision making. And then we have, I think, one person who selected answer number 5. All right. So let's walk through, and I'll give you the answer in just a second. But the first module really is to cover what business strategy is, and this is very important. Whether you are a very mature government contractor, or you're new to government contracting space, or whether you are thinking about diversifying outside of government contracting, really it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about how we define business strategy. What does it mean for your business? And then we're going to dive and keep focused on government contracting, defining who our ideal government customer is. It seems such a benign question, but we talk to very mature government contractors and they really cannot define their ideal government customer to us. There are a lot of, well, yes, but answers that we get. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this and why, when you lose proposals, I'm jumping all the way to proposals. Why, when you lose proposals, it all points back to this module, this very first portion of your business strategy. Losing a proposal is not because you were overpriced. Losing a proposal is not because you missed compliance. Those are just symptoms of the whole process. But there is a bigger reason why companies don't win business. And it all points back to this very fundamental module. And then it is, if you have defined your customer, well, where do you find these customers? Do you have to pay those thousands of dollars to paid subscription databases? Is that the only place you're going to learn about a secret sauce of a secret upcoming opportunity? Or is it all out there in public domain and you just have to know where to find it? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And once you have found your customer, you know where to find them, you've defined it, meaningful relationships. How do you build meaningful relationships? Most often, we get asked this question, well, can you just set up a meeting for me with this customer? Why do you think that customer is going to take a meeting with you? What have you done for them that they're going to accept you and your time and give their time to you? Well, you have to have meaningful relationships, and relationship building takes time. So we're going to talk about some of those strategies and how you do that. That's part of your business strategy. That's part of you setting the foundation for your company. And the resources that you can hire. The number one thing that companies invest in once they win a contract or two contracts as they're getting off the ground is, oh, I need a business developer. That's the first thing we hear. Oh, we have money now, we can go hire a business developer. And that you really need to look at resources outside of just hiring a business developer. So we'll have some discussion about that as well. So what does business strategy really mean? It's a baseline, it's a foundation, it's your fundamental purpose of doing business. That does not mean that you set this when you first start your business, you pen it on paper, and that's the last time you're going to do it. Your business strategy will change over time. It's a working model. It's a work in progress. But you have to have some basic answer to why you're in business. Why are we doing this? Why have we formed this company? Why are we wanting to do government business? Why do we want to diversify outside of government business? Your business strategy is the fundamental purpose of doing business, and over time, the fundamental purpose for you to remain relevant and stay in business. So here, we say, answer these basic questions before you, even if you're already doing business, step back for a moment. Have this exercise with yourself, with your core team, your key personnel, your executive staff. I don't have the insight into how big the companies or folks are who are participating in this webinar today. I don't know about your companies, but wherever you are in your process, stop for a few moments and look back and reflect on these questions. Why are you in business? Why did you start the business to begin with? If you've already started it, why did you start it? Why do why do your customers need what you have to offer? Is it because you are the technical SME in your company? You did this for a long time. You did acquisition for a long time. You did IT for a long time. You did construction for a long time. And you bring those technical capabilities, and now you can offer it to other people as your own business. Why? Why do they? First of all, it's not what they need. We're not talking about what your customers need. Answer the why. Why do they need what you have to offer? When companies come to us and we look at their portfolio of capabilities, especially the IT companies, they're so diverse. They have put everything, including the kitchen sink, in their capabilities. We don't know why they're in business to begin with. They can't answer why they're in business to begin with, or that who needs what they're offering, or why does the customer even need all these services anymore? Some of them are legacy services, legacy capabilities that just keep getting carried forward. So answer these basic questions. And I actually would say, for our own company, for Proposal Helper, we go through this exercise at least once a year. The answer may be same for 2-3 years in a row. The answer may be same, but we go through this exercise over a 3-day period each year and answer these questions for ourselves. We do not bring in outside consultants. I have seen it happen. I've participated as part of other companies' business strategy sessions where they brought in an outside consultant to facilitate the whole thing. I'm not a proponent of that because I feel you and your employees know your company the best, and you're probably going to be the most honest about it, instead of having an outside person steering you one way or the other. But there are benefits, so there are pros and cons to each. But business strategy is setting your fundamental purpose for doing business. If you can clearly answer this, you will have your elevator pitch of who are you, what do you do. So this is what business strategy really means. And again, like I said, answering these questions. As you're answering these questions, we want to stay away from how. What problems are we solving is not the same as how are we going to solve that problem. This is not the time to answer that question. Who is, who or how, what are we doing differently? The only answer you're going to come up with is what are you doing differently, not how. The how is an operational issue. It is what are you doing? What is different about you? What is driving the need for what I have to offer? Answer the what in each of these cases. Do not get into the how are we going to do it. Because as soon as you start getting into the how, at this stage of business strategy planning, you're going to start coming up with hurdles. You're going to start seeing an uphill battle. You're going to start coming up with, and we do this, I call this for myself, excuses. Well, we don't have people in the company. We don't have the budget for it. We can't hire that person. We're going to have to outsource. We don't know where to look for that. The what is not important, or how is not important right now. We'll figure that out at a later stage in our business strategy. First, we start with the what and the why. And if you can say why you are in business, that's your elevator pitch right there. So I am actually going to have some of you, if we can take a quick 2 to 3 minutes, although my slide says 5 minutes, that will be a lot of radio silence on this line here. If you all want to open up a PowerPoint slide or a Word document, Google Docs, whatever, and answer these questions. And I'll just have, I don't know, Jacob or someone from the MBDA team randomly call on 1 or 2 audience members to see if you can talk about why you are in business. And this would be a great way for you to network, introduce your company. I'm giving you a forum to talk a little bit about your company. So please do this, come work along with us, do this exercise. You will find it very beneficial. So answer these 3 questions. Why are you in business? What problem do you solve? And who has this problem? Be as specific as you can. So don't just say the government has this problem. Be specific on who do you think has a need for what you're trying to provide. So in the meantime, if someone has questions, I don't have access to questions if any have come in at this time. So somebody will have to read them out. I'm not seeing questions. But let me give you guys a few minutes to answer these questions.
And Rena, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat at this time.
Okay. All right, I'm getting a couple of direct messages saying, "Don't call on me."
Well, Rena, I was just getting ready to say, as soon as you give the thumbs up, we will go and we'll ask for volunteers since
Good. Okay.
we'll ask for volunteers and see who, by having them raise your hand once we're ready, and then we'll make sure that we unmute that person's mic and they can
Yeah, if
address the
someone
question.
is already ready, you've gone through this exercise and you want to tell us about your company and introduce yourself, we can get rolling.
Yeah, this is a free airtime.
We have a very shy audience. Unless I'm not seeing their hands being raised. And
No hands raised yet. I'm looking.
Hi, I'd like to go.
Okay, tell us who you are.
Of course. My name is Mohammed Hersey. I'm with ACI Solutions, and we are a system integrator within the government space. Our area of focus is within Homeland Security and Department of Defense. And why we're in business kind of boils down to when we started the company, which is we started the company right after 9/11. And we were tasked with creating a new agency for 9/11, after 9/11, which was called the Transportation Security Administration, which eventually became the DHS. So our company has always been focused on mission and helping our clients meet those mission objectives. So we've been doing that for almost 20 years now. We still support the TSA and have received amazing awards and recognition from them. And the problems that we solve is the problems that are extremely dynamic because, they change. It's not something that's very static. So whether, one time it may be trying to meet a mission objectives where cost is not an issue. Next time is trying to meet a mission objectives where cost is an issue, and trying to work within that framework within our client community. And the problems that we solve today as a company are infrastructure related. So we do secure unified communications, telepresence, network support, cybersecurity, and program and project management. So as a company, that's what we've been doing, and our passion lies in, helping and securing our country.
very nice. Thank you for sharing that. So I think I heard your name. It's Mohammed, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Mohammed. And this is what you said had a lot of depth to it. But what I heard from my side, and this is typically what and I can have almost anyone here will tell you this. What I heard as the first thing you said is we are systems integrators. As soon as you said systems integrators, I lost you for a moment. I had to bring myself back to paying attention. This is, again, systems integration is such a generic term, but where you got my attention really well is where you said we focus on the infrastructure side of business. Very well defined. It's narrow, it's defined. Versus systems integration is
nebulous.
You and all of us around the beltway can say that, right? So I think it's that niche. Find your unique definition within IT space. You specialize in infrastructure and infrastructure security, or setting up new institutions, new agencies, and their unique infrastructures for mission or homeland security or security requirements. Define that very narrowly. One thing that we find when companies try to come and tell us, even in proposals as we're helping them write and helping them come up with what is unique about them, is there's a fear of missing out, right? The FOMO is, well, if I don't get all my words into this, then I might miss out on some opportunity because I didn't really tell them that I can also do this and I can also do that. So part of defining your company, of why you're in business, what you solve, and who has this problem, go through the exercise of being as narrowly defined as possible and then broaden out of there. But yeah, you got to the point where you said you had that specialization in infrastructure, so that you got my attention there. So thank you for sharing.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
Any other volunteers?
I see Sean Etienne. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Has his hand raised as well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Sean Etienne. I have a family business. It's not my business. It's a family business. The name of the business is called the Dosu Group. It is a certified veteran-owned small business company. It was founded in 2000. It strategically aligns with its partners to provide professional engineering, program management, and construction management services to federal, regional, and local government agencies, including specialized engineering services in electric utility, power generation, construction, public infrastructure, and national defense to improve productivity, reduce costs, and increase revenue. We've participated in several different projects: PEPCO, FEP program, Romania Utility Interconnect, New York State Department of Transportation Inspections. I think it's NYS dot. PEPCO Ritchie substations and naval radio transmitter facilities. This was in Italy. Um, Central Access Control Point in Fort Meade, Maryland. Um, uh, Russet substation in Laurel, Maryland. So we've participated in several. Different projects. I I am open to connecting with any of you all. Thank you.
So Sean, you didn't actually tell us why you're in business, and as much past performance as you have, I would claim it as my own. I wouldn't even call it a family business.
Okay.
So who is your ideal customer for you, Sean?
It would be the government, state and federal. Um, and just like any agency, my why or our why would be to improve 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 the lives of government agencies, improve the lives of the people working at several different government agencies, both federal and state.
Thank you for that. And I do see, now I'm starting to see hands. I was on the wrong screen. So go ahead, and if you guys want to call on more volunteers, please go forward and call on others. I'd like to hear at least two more, and then we can move on.
Mercedita.
Hi, thank you so much for calling on me. My name is Mercedita Rojas Murray, and I am with Montage Marketing. Montage Marketing is in business to create engagement, events, and communications work that positively impacts our client stakeholders. We solve for outreach that takes into account diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we ensure that engagement is culturally and linguistically sensitive to be effective. We solve communications needs for federal agencies that have diverse personnel or engage in a diverse public. Thank you for being here, and I'm enjoying your talk so far.
Thank you. Thank you. Very unique. I like what your company does. I might actually have a subcontracting opportunity to discuss with you later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, one more and then we can move on.
Shannon Edwards. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
You said it correctly. It's Shannon. It's just spelled differently. So I work for LJB Development. We are a government contractor. We specialize in contract management. The goal is to have our clients' projects finished on time and on budget. We specialize in safety. We specialize in government contracts, particularly because there are a lot of submittals, and we're really great at the paperwork where most people struggle with that part. And we do what we do because we honestly just love working with the government. We have done some private work. We are doing private work right now, but we prefer to work with the government because they're very particular about how they want things. They don't leave very much to question, which is nice because you can really just focus on getting the job done on time and on budget with little to no distractions, as long as everyone follows the plan and sticks to the mission objective.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Shannon. So I'm going to keep moving on. I do see a couple more hands, and there are other exercises I will, that will give you the opportunity to talk about your company. One of the sessions that I've done previously, I actually had 3 participants who point blank just said, we are in business to make money. And there is nothing wrong with that. Unless you're a nonprofit, unless you're a charity, we all know we're in business to make a profit, right? So I would say don't hesitate to answer that question that way. At least it's clear to everyone in your company why we are in business. If the sole focus is revenue, your strategy will be very different. If your sole focus is, I'm in this to save lives, it's very different. You're going to operate differently. You're going to select opportunities differently. If you are in business to make money, if high profit margins are your sole purpose for why you're in business, you are not going to go after LPTA jobs. You are not going to bid on things that don't generate a whole lot of revenue for you. But if the same project required you to save lives, you may say, I don't care. I don't care that I'm going to make a 3 to 5% margin on this. I want to do this because that's why we're in business, right? So this is very important for you to define why you're in business and be brutally honest with yourself. I once, in my previous career, worked for a company. I did business development for them in the Philippines, and they said very clearly, if I don't have a 35% profit margin, don't even bring that lead to management to approve. It will not go through a bid, no bid process even. 35% was that company's threshold, net profit. So, it just defines it. As an employee of that company, I had my marching orders. If I knew that I'm not going to make that kind of margin on this, I wasn't going to waste my executive leadership time or my proposal team's time because I couldn't justify it. So while you're in business, be very brutally honest about it. What problem do you want to solve? If you can't define this in one sentence, then your employees will not know what they're working towards. You will not know where you're steering this boat. So again, what problem are you trying to solve, and who has this problem builds the very fundamental, it gives you a very fundamental answer, because you do not want to be selling your solution, your capabilities to an agency that has no need for it. I was talking to a small business officer yesterday at the U.S. Marine Corps, and he said, "Oh, there was a lady who came by his office and said she wanted to sell jewelry." And he looked at her and he goes, "Why are you in my office?" you know, so she didn't know whom she was talking to. She spent her time, setting up an appointment with him, he taking his time to talk to her. Now he was able to direct her to the base PX, buying authority and all of that, but wrong customer. She didn't know who has the problem that you're trying to solve. You have jewelry, you shouldn't be selling it to the Marine Corps small business office unless, I don't know, do Marines buy jewelry? I don't think they'll confess to it. Okay, so that brings us to defining our ideal customer, right? This is the most challenging part, especially for government contractors. The very simple, answer we get is anyone who needs our services. That's our customer. The government is our customer. The government is huge. It's vast. We can spend our entire lifetimes trying to map them out. And I don't think even the government knows how big it is, right? What does it do to you as an organization? If your answer is, I'm going to sell to anyone who needs my services, you're going to spread yourself too thin. You're not going to have depth. You will have breadth, but at some point, even that is not going to make any sense to you because you're going to have one-off contract here, one contract with the state, one contract with federal, one with local, and you might be all over the place. Now, I think it was Sean who was talking about his business. They have a diversified customer base, but very focused in terms of the need, which is okay. So you have depth in the same type of work, but you have gone to multiple countries, you have gone overseas, you have done local, state, federal, that's fine. But if you say that anyone who needs your services is my customer, you're going to spread yourself too thin. And what we find is companies come to us and if they're going to start with anyone who needs my services, I'm going to sell it to them. And they have bid on contracts with that mentality. About 5 to 7 years into their portfolio of projects, they don't have critical mass of anything. So they really cannot claim specialization in any capability, when any core capability. What that does is it creates a problem when they go to a prime contractor, a large business, and they say, we'd like to sub to you. And the prime says, oh, sure, okay, so you claim to be a systems integrator. Let me see your past performances. Well, if one past performance had something to do with professional services, the other one had systems integration, the other one is cybersecurity, they can't peg you down, and so they don't know what is your capability. You're a small business with too many things going on. Same thing happens with small business offices, and I'm sure the MBDA team faces similar problems. When companies come to them with too many one-off past performances, one-off claimed capabilities, they can't really figure out where to peg you. Where do I put you and who do I refer you to? Which customer makes sense to you or for your company? So there are capabilities, the value you bring to the table, and then there's a client's mission need. When these two merge, and we'll see this in the next slide, where they merge is the sole sliver of focus that you should have to focus on your customer base. You begin with the agency's mission, right? Is that mission aligned with your reason for being in business? And this is basic research. All agencies publish their mission. I'll give you an example on this, talk about diversified customer base. We have clients, and I'm sure most of you have heard of CIOSP4, the big IDIQ that's supposedly the RFP is going to release on the 22nd. But our clients have been working with us for months now building that proposal. Very clearly says in order to get past your gate one, your first hurdle, you have to demonstrate past performance in healthcare IT. So companies come to us and they go, well, I provide IT services and the end customer is a doctor, or the end unit, it's with the DoD and the end unit is the nursing team within Walter Reed, but I'm providing services to Marine Corps. Completely misaligned, right? The mission of that organization should be healthcare. You provide IT services, but the client's mission, the agency's mission should be healthcare. That's what they're looking for, is can you provide services to an agency whose primary mission is healthcare? And then we have companies who want to pursue an IDIQ like that, who have no business or no interest whatsoever in healthcare. But they want to pursue this IDIQ because, well, everybody is chasing IDIQs. I don't want to miss out. I want to go bid on this thing. So I'm going to form joint ventures. I'm going to go create a CTA somewhere. Jumping through hoops to get an IDIQ that basically has no meaning to you, because that's not your customer. Healthcare, an agency with healthcare as their primary mission may not be your customer. Or if they are, then you need to build enough critical mass so that when these large IDIQs come out, you should be able to stand as a prime without dependency on subcontractors. So begin with, what is the agency's mission, and can I support that mission? Do I want to support that mission? Look at their budgets. Again, you may want to sell them your capabilities. You may look at their mission and say, this is perfect. Everything is aligned. This is exactly what we do. This is what the agency's mission is. We can work with this agency. But do they have the budget to buy what you're selling to them? Can they afford you? Now, in grand scheme of things, right, the agency budgets are in millions, if not billions. So for a small business, if you are saying, you know what, even $3 to $5 million job is good enough for me, the numbers may work out in the short run. But as you try to build and sustain your business with this agency, keep in mind that their budgets may not be enough. So diversification very early may be your business strategy. You start with this agency, but don't stay with this agency. Use them for past performance. Move on. You need to know, do they have the dollars to spend? And will it sustain your business in the long term? And again, all this information is very publicly available on the agency's website. You don't need to pay someone to do this for you. Study the agency's forecast. They may have the money, they may have their mission aligns with you. Look at the agency's forecast, and we go back 3 years because we want to see, is there a pattern in this agency? How risk averse or how risky is this agency where they are publishing unfunded opportunities in their forecast? So it makes it look like they have a lot of requirements. It might look like they have a lot of opportunities there, but if you go back 3 years and then you compare to how many of those opportunities were actually funded, how many of those contracts actually came to fruition from RFP to proposals to contract stage, it's an indicator to saying, if I'm going to bet my entire business strategy on this company's forecast, I am being as risky as them, or I'm being as risk averse as them. So this is very important when you're building your customer, defining your ideal customer. Please look at their agency forecast and study and see if they're actually bringing their contracts to fruition. And this is another one of those where we hear companies say, well, we responded to the sources sought, but we never heard from them again. Or if you go to BetaSAM, you might find a sources sought that is 2 years old, still sitting out there. But they did a sources sought, but it never came through fruition. What happened? So, and is this a pattern with this agency? So if that's the agency you have picked as your primary customer, profile them, see how risky they are, and how will that impact your revenue? Because if they announce opportunities and for 2-3 years don't even procure them, then your pipeline will look very different than what you imagined it to be. The organizational chart, understanding your customer is so important. Again, this drives to everything else looks great, but I don't even know whom to sell to, right? If your end customer is, I'm just going to pick, Center for Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid, CMS. I bring this up because we have a webinar with CMS tomorrow. If your primary agency is CMS, going to HHS Small Business Office may not be the best thing to do. So drill down into who is my customer, where is this person sitting, go down to the office level. Again, all publicly available information. So this is what I was talking about, right? Your capability, your value aligns, when it aligns with the customer's mission, their buying, their funding, their ability to spend money to the extent that you want, the money, the budgets that you would like for them to have, that's your sweet spot. It takes a little bit of legwork to get there. It's an exercise, but it's not difficult to do. And once you have this, I can guarantee you that your strategy and your way of operating will be very different than what you are doing right now. Right now, you're just looking at BetaSam, or you're paying Deltec, or whatever way you're doing business development. You're right now in the chasing mode versus being ahead of these opportunities and looking back and saying, I'm ready for you. Whenever the customer hits me, I'm ready for it. It's the most small businesses are in this rat race of, oh, this lead just came out, this RFP just came out, let's go bid on it. This RFP just came out, let's go find teaming partners on it. You need to change that mode, and if you go through this exercise, you will be more proactive than reactive. So going into meaningful relationship, right? This is, again, so you've defined your customer, you've found the right people, you've found the roster of people that you need to start talking to. And I'll tell you, the most common thing we hear from companies, especially coming from the commercial side into government contracting, is, if I could just sit in front of this customer, I can guarantee you I can close this sale. Well, we all know it doesn't work that way with the government. So you're going to have to build relationships, and whether we are told otherwise, government contracting is as much about relationships as commercial businesses. So we say, to build meaningful relationships, you're going to have to treat your customers, your prospect, your competitor, teaming partner, potential hires, the way you want to be treated. You don't want to be sold to. You don't want a transactional relationship. You don't want someone coming to you the first time and saying, hey, I'd like for you to write me a check for $10 million contract. I'm not going to do it. I just met you. You just walked into my office. I'm not going to write you that check, right? So if you are not going to buy that way, what makes us think that the government is going to buy that way? Doesn't work that way. You have to build a relationship. You have to build a relationship by giving the other person what they are looking for. We oftentimes talk to small business officers in agencies, and they always say, well, we put out these sources of notices, small businesses don't respond. Well, why do they think this is going to get set aside for small business? We took the effort to try and do research and help small businesses, but they don't respond. Or we set up these networking sessions. We've set up the industry days, and those companies don't want to show up, and then they expect us to take their phone calls one-on-one. Well, why not support that small business office in their programs, in their sources sought responses? Yes, it's an effort on your side, but it's building a relationship. So we do place a lot of emphasis on sources sought, on white papers, on nowadays it's videos. A lot of the companies are creating their capability videos, and they'll include it in their signature block or when they send it to the small business office, so that they don't have to sit and read a lot of capability statements. So all these things are being done to build relationships, and it's going to take it's going to take some time. You're not going to get a contract out of one meeting. It's just not, might be luck. You don't do business, relying on luck. And so the other thing we also say is, be nice to your employees and your teaming partners as well. A lot of times we hear companies that, they'll say, well, they were supposed to send me an NDA yesterday and they haven't sent it to me. I don't want to ever work with that company again. Well, okay, but remember why you reached out to them in the first place. Why do we need to team with them? Now, if you are in a power position and your subcontractor is not being responsive, you have the prerogative to say, you know what, I don't want to do business with them. But that's just one opportunity. In the future, you may need their capability. So it does require a lot of patience and a lot of respect. Relationships don't happen overnight. The other thing I'll tell you, because companies like ours, we do help with matchmaking. We help with partnering. We help set up appointments with the government folks, but we don't do it for everybody. Because at that point, we are leveraging the relationship we have built with these entities. We are relying on our goodwill with these people to introduce you to the other. So we are being very careful in how we use those relationships, because if we make too many bad introductions, the next time I come to you and say, hey, you should team up with the company I'm telling you to, you're not going to trust me. You're going to say, oh, these people just keep bringing companies to me. I don't want to talk to them. So regardless of whether you hire a consultant or you do it yourself, build those relationships. It takes time. The person in the government that you're building a relationship with may leave, but very likely go to another agency, and most likely a similar mission agency. So think of it as you having gained a new agency as your customer, not a lost contact. And sometimes we've, what our clients have done is use those people who have moved on, the contracting officer moved on to the next agency, have asked for help from them to introduce them to the person who took over their position. So if you are well liked, you've built that relationship, you can rely on those referrals, on an insider making an introduction to the new person. And that is way more powerful than you trying to do a cold turkey, let me start building a relationship from scratch. So let me take a breather here for a second, see if there are any questions. We do have a second poll question. I'm trying to launch the poll. I'm not sure how do I do it. Okay, I think I got it. All right, let's take a few seconds, and if there are any questions on anything that I've discussed this far, please submit those in the chat. Happy to answer. We'll keep this one open for about 60 seconds. Not sure how I'm doing on time. I think I'm okay.
You're good, Rena. It's 1:56.
Good, okay.
And I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat box right now.
Did I put all our audience members to sleep? This is what I don't like about the virtual training sessions. I can't see if I'm putting people to sleep.
You're doing a great job, Rena.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are 47 counting, support that's in there from the beginning and still there.
All right, I'm going to keep this open for 5 more seconds and then we'll end the poll. All right, let's, so I'm sharing my results here. Looks like 2 to 3 networking sessions. I'm glad to see that nobody said that they're uncomfortable with networking. That would be very concerning. If that was the case, we would have to put you in a separate class with me. Because I am, as extroverted as I might be, I love meeting new people, but it takes me a minute. So I don't blame those who feel a little uncomfortable doing it. But once you start meeting people, it is an amazing experience, and we all know that it does help. And in business, if we are in business, there is really no option but to network. Um, Not only because we want to do business with each other, but who knows if there's a new opportunity, a new angle that's available, new capability that you may not have considered that might be available. So absolutely. Now I do have to say, in networking, there is such a thing as overdoing it. So none of these answers will lead you to overdoing it. But you have to pick and choose, especially with everything going on with COVID and everything going virtual. There are so many options to attend industry days. And I think that's a positive thing, in my opinion, that has come out of COVID is the industry days that the government has made available, where you could only attend one or two max, at a time. Before, when you had to drive somewhere and go in person, if it required travel, you had to worry about travel budgets. With everything going virtual, you do have access to more of these sessions, but there is such a thing as too many, meaning that you're spending your entire time in events and networking, but you're not actually actioning any of those meetings, right? Once you've met someone, something has come out of it, you need to take it to the next level. So, again, I'm not going to go into networking 101 here. I'm sure you all have experienced it, but there have been times when I've met people who, instead of doing what we're asking them to do with business development, well, the advice they've hired us to do things for them, and instead of them doing their part, they're too busy attending industry day sessions, flying from one place to another. And really, you got to question, how important is it for you to travel from East Coast to West Coast just to attend an industry day versus focusing on business that you were supposed to take care of? Because nobody can do business development for your company like you can.
Hi, Reena, I had a question.
Yes.
Hi, this is Dr. Iqbal Amiri. I'm with Secure Intech. I'm the founder, and we are a woman-owned small business. As a small business, we concentrate on artificial intelligence and cloud computing, and we tackle the federal government. Most of our contracts are subcontracting opportunities, and we are at a point in which we're looking, what you were talking about before was, do I hire a business development capture person for proposals, or do we go with outsourced help, right? So a couple of questions. As a small organization, does it make sense? And I think I know your answer, but does it make sense to keep a full-time capture proposal person, or should we rely on outsourcing each and every capture that we have gone through the pipeline and identified that we can tackle? Also, we are 8A, so we're just a new entrant on the 8A. So given the fact that we're concentrating on two major aspects of AI and cloud computing with past performance, what is your suggestion? And also went to your website. Is that the place where I should ask for some more information, or you'll share that later on with us?
So I'm going to assume you expect me to say you should outsource to me. That's a very loaded question, and I'm going to get to that in just when I get into the module 2. But since you asked, and I'm sure others have the same question, let me answer it for you. It is not an either or question. A company who can afford to have business developers should have business developers. But business development and capture are two separate functions. You can have one point person in your company, but that person is going to need additional resources, and that can come as consultants and outsourced help. you cannot, the average lifespan of a business developer in the DC metro area with any company is about 7 months. And I know that because we work with companies and we are their transition team. So every 6 to 7 months, we have a new business developer that starts working with us from our client company. They leave, we transition the next person, bring them up to speed. And the reason being because there's no clear expectations set on what this business developer can achieve and should achieve. If you are clear about that, it helps. But that one person is not going to be able to do business development, capture, and close the deal for you. So you will need to augment this person. On the capture side of the house, definitely outsource. I would not hire unless you can, you can have 3 or 4 capture managers, and even those are very difficult. Good capture managers are very difficult to find. What I have done very successfully, and I've worked with companies who have done very successfully, is had their BD team. They hired a strategic capture manager who then ended up being the program manager on the contract that he or she helped win. So the capture manager's function is to bring intelligence because they worked for that agency, or they worked for the incumbent as a program manager in the past, or they were a project manager waiting to be promoted, but the only way they're going to get that program manager spot is if they change companies. These are people you hire, invest in, and bring them on as your capture managers to capture a strategic opportunity. So you have a BD person in-house, but capture manager is probably going to be a consultant or a strategic hire. And then, in terms of, if you want to stay, with me, there's a separate session that you can schedule with us to talk more in depth about strategy. And we're going to give away 30 minutes of consulting time to everybody who stays till the end. So please feel free to stay on and schedule time with us to discuss it further. So I hope I answered your question there.
Yeah, you did, Ms. Bhatia. Thank you so much. And thank you, MB, for doing this. This is really, we were looking for something like this and you hit the spot. So thank you very much.
Good. I'm glad. Great. So I do have an exercise on screen, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to call on anyone. I do really want you all to do this, right? Try to, whether you're like me who likes to do everything on my computer. I don't know the last time I held a pen in my hand. Or if you have a beautiful notebook, put pen to paper. It really makes a difference when in your mind, you might say, oh, I know this stuff. Okay, I got it. But when you have to write it down, it makes you stop and think and say, what are the 2 techniques I would use to network? I'll tell you when I worked with CACI, what we did, even though we worked on the proposal team, we worked with our technical SMEs to prepare white papers. And at that time, as one of the junior proposal managers, it didn't make much sense to me. I never understood why we wrote as many white papers as we did. Why did it matter that, why were we doing all this? And I'm talking, now 15, 18 years ago. But it is even more relevant today than it was back then. Write a white paper to establish yourself as the thought leader in your field. Establish yourself as the authority in the capability you claim to be. It does not have to be a big novel. It may be a 2-pager, but do it, publish it. Because whether you believe it or not, whether you think it's true or not, your prime contractors will look at it. The government does look at these things. They're going to say, are these people just claiming to be cybersecurity experts, or have they actually done something in this field? Have they published anything innovative in this field? And it really doesn't have to be the next Tesla. It's incremental innovations. It's what do you think? Even if it's an op-ed, it's an opinion piece, do it. Establish yourself as a thought leader. Attend the industry days that the small business offices put together. It is a place to network. As much as you may not get to have one-on-one time with the host, they know you have attended, right? They appreciate you supporting their efforts of putting these together. They do it for small businesses. So do that. And then, of course, there are a lot of industry events that happen. We put together once a month. We invite different agencies to talk. Tomorrow is our day with CMS. Their procurement directorate is coming on our webinar. You're going to see other people who are at CMS, who are the companies who are interested in CMS. You can start networking with each other so that you can partner. When you have the next opportunity and you need a teaming partner, reach out to them. They'll do the same thing. And of course, then you get to hear about, what is CMS doing? What are their preferred IDIQs? Is that the agency that has a mission that aligns with why I am in business? So do it. Oh, here's the slide that you were asking about, right? So resources other than hiring business developers. The one thing I'll tell you, whether you hire a business developer or not, I don't care what size business you are. The most successful businesses that we have worked with are the ones where the senior management was solely focused on business development and capture versus operations. We love to work with companies whose CEOs and executive staff don't consider themselves as operational people. They're more focused on business development and capture. It really helps your company. You may hire other people to do it for you, but it is always with you. It is not, they're not going to do it for you. They have to do it with you. Yes, business development cannot be outsourced in the sense that you may hire people, you may hire a consultant even to do it, but you have to keep your fingers in business development. You have to do it. We have worked with very technical folks who started their own companies, and they would, much rather say, I don't enjoy doing this. I hate business development. It's very uncomfortable for me. I don't like going through this capability brief and then I have to go ask them, can I team with you? I don't want to do all that. Well, if you're not going to do that and your title is CEO, nobody else is going to do it for you, because the person you hire to do it for you is probably not going to enjoy it either. They're going to need you on those calls. They're going to need you to be that personality on the call to say, you should join our company, you should team with us. That BD person will not be able to do it themselves. So yes, you can hire business developers, but you have to remain involved. In fact, you should do more to be on the business development side and delegate your operational responsibilities as much as possible, because at that point, then you start working on your business, not in your business. And you've all heard that, right? We want to get to a point where you want to work on your business, not in your business. And then, okay, so now I'm going to move on into capture strategy. Let me just take a brief moment and see, are there any other questions on the business strategy side? I'm hoping that the information is resonating and it's useful. Any questions that I need to answer at this point?
There are a few questions in chat. The first one is for federal agencies. What is your take on how long it should take to actually develop a good relationship?
Well, that depends on the agency and whether it's civilian or DoD. On the DoD side, I can tell you that we've spent my very first experience. I had 2 years when we were, with the buyer. The person who was going to make the buying decision, And by the time the funding actually got approved, he got moved to a different agency. And so we had to start all over again. So 2 years was probably too long there. But I would say 6 to 8 months of consistent professional connections, responding to sources sought, following up with the person is a good, I would say, a rule of thumb in a way. It's not really a rule of thumb, but a good timeline, 6 to 8 months to build a relationship where you're staying in contact with them, you're sharing your developments, whether they view it or not view it. It doesn't hurt to say, hey, I'd like to update my capability statement. Or I remember last time I met with you, we had discussed this requirement. We just published a white paper on it, and I thought I might share that with you. Would you please pass it on to the program managers? Those are types of connections I would say keep that ongoing dialogue going. And don't get discouraged if you don't ever hear back from them. That does not mean that they're not listening.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure, go ahead.
So in terms of capture management, many government agencies have a tendency to go the route of LPTA. So if they go the route of LPTA, at the end of the day, they're going to make the decision based on whoever can offer the services for the lowest price. What is the essence of building a relationship if at the end of the day, the decision is still going to be made based on whoever can offer the lowest price?
Yeah, that is a loaded question. And as much as I'd like to say, oh no, there is such a thing as no LPTA, we know that pricing is important. In fact, the more similar the requirements or the commodity the requirements are, the harder it is. But again, there's not one person that is making the decision to begin with. What you are trying to do is not so much for them to evaluate you as much as you are building a relationship to understand their requirements, understand the challenges that they're facing. That's what we want our capture managers to do. When we talk to our capture managers, it's not building a relationship to go sell what you have to offer. It's not about telling them what you have to offer. We want you to build a relationship to ask questions such as, what's not working with your current contractor? Or what are some of the challenges you're facing? And that knowledge needs to translate down into your organization. It cannot stay with you. You need to pass on that intel. And the only way you're going to get any answers out of these people is if you have a relationship where they feel comfortable in talking to you. So I look at it, building a relationship not to sell them, but for us to find out how we're going to differentiate our proposal. How, do we even want to work with this customer? Because as you build a relationship, you might find out that the biggest challenge is that this customer doesn't let any employee stay there. And the incumbent is having a hard time placing people. They don't approve resumes on time. If that's, those are some situations. You might just say, this is good information. I don't think I want this contract in my portfolio, and just walk away. So for a different reason is why you would build a relationship.
Thank you.
Rena, this is Tommy. Could I just add something to that?
Sure.
The LPTA, which gets a lot of bad knocks. I spent 40 years in the government, and half of that was in acquisition. The deal is when folks try to undercut that program, really, that what we'll find is that just because they were the lowest price, they don't necessarily keep that contract. And a lot of what took place is inexperienced contracting officers not really understanding how to use the tool, if you will. Totally agree with you. You got to still build relationships. The government contracting arena is lowest price, technical acceptable, or best value. I mean, those are the methods they use. And if you go back to the sealed bid process, which is still was based on the lowest price and being technically acceptable, then you understand that those tools are still going to be there, and you got to understand how to play in that and put yourself in a position to still come out ahead.
Yeah, and again, if there's selling or building a relationship with one person is not enough, because your source selection committee is not one person. So it's not for you to sell to them, but get intelligence so that when you're writing the proposal, it resonates with them. They're going to relate to what you're saying versus everybody else who is going to write only to the South, only to L, only to M, versus where you are saying, this is what your RFP states. We understand these additional challenges that your agency is going through. Not many people can do that. But the companies who are larger, that we work with and have dedicated capture, and that's what we're getting into, they do that so beautifully. And when we see those big numbers, when you see, a company that was a $10 million company just got awarded a $70 million, $130 million contract, it's not because they found that opportunity on Beta Sam and went and wrote a proposal to it and won that contract. We start working with companies 12 to 24 months before the RFP even is announced. They start with the incumbent's RFP. That's where we are starting the proposal effort. And we have gone through maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds of review, because each time their capture managers come back and give us more intelligence, our solution has to change. Does it fit? Does our pricing fit? We start with pricing a lot of times and say, is this thing even profitable? Should we even move into technical writing if we can't make the profits that this company wants to make? And we have done. Our clients have no bid projects after they've gone through the first pricing exercise and said, this is LPTA, our wrap rates are too high for this, we'll never be able to capture it. This is SCA work, we'll never be able to hit the low numbers that some companies are coming in, let's not bid on this. But the successful companies, what they're focused on is not what is published today on Beta Sam. And I'm not discouraging you to look at it. You should. There are bluebirds, what we call, or what the industry calls low-hanging fruits, right? There are some really good opportunities, but they're not going to hit the big numbers. The exponential growth doesn't come by responding to just the RFP that was announced yesterday. It requires a lot of business development and capture upfront, which is what we are talking about today, is don't start when the RFP has come out. You got to invest in that very early. Your pipeline has to be very robust, and it has to be real. One of the things that we have seen with pipelines that come to us, client pipelines that we have seen, are full of bogus opportunities. They're big numbers, makes the CEO feel like the business developer is doing something, but half of those opportunities aren't even real. So be very realistic in your pipeline. Okay, so I know we're running short of time. I do want to get through this, so I'm going to hold on to the questions. Let me get through capture strategy. Because this is important, especially for small businesses who really try to mix business development and capture. It's then, it's very frustrating, not just for the executive side of the house, but for your proposal team. It's equally hard, because that in between, the bridge is completely missing with small businesses. And this is where I'm sorry, I forget the name of the gentleman who asked me the question, business developer, capture management. If you try to make your business development person do capture also, one or the other has to give. And I'm going to skip through the poll question because we don't have much time here. So they're not synonymous. A business developer is somebody different. Capture manager is a completely different person. A business developer identifies opportunities very early, right? They come in, they find or they create opportunities. If we have all heard, shaping the opportunity or creating the need for, or creating the requirement. It's not often that it happens where you have created an opportunity, but the business developer finds the opportunity very early, and then they've gone through their initial bid no bid process. If the executive team says, yes, this is a bid or this is of interest to us, it's not even a bid, it's of interest to us, they hand that over, assign it to a capture manager, and move to their next prospect. The business developer's job is to be out there and be wide. They are the ones networking. They're looking for subcontracting opportunities. They're talking to your primes. They're talking to small business offices. They're talking to the program managers at the government agencies, but they're not diving deep into it. A business developer cannot sit and figure out who is the incumbent, how much is the incumbent spending on this, how many mods did they have, who is their key person, do they have turnover issues, what is their current spend rate, how much what is going on with this deal. That's not what a business developer does. The problem we have in small companies is the expectation that the business developer is also going to sit and investigate an opportunity, and oh, by the way, keep my pipeline full, right? That's when you start seeing the business developers filling pipelines with bogus opportunities, because it's impossible for them to do both. The roles and the responsibilities are different. So either you're going to hire a business developer and outsource capture, and I say outsource capture because capture management requires deep connections and relationships and an understanding of the agency where you're pursuing the opportunity. Only then will that person be able to navigate and find the information you need in order to put a winning proposal together. If it's an outsider, if you come to me and say, hey, you know what, can you go find out for me, how this contractor is doing at NASA? No, I couldn't do it. I don't know NASA's organization. I don't know how they're structured, where am I navigating this thing? But somebody who has worked at NASA, somebody who has been in there, who is now a consultant, and there are consultants, really good ones out there, but you have to look for a person who has been separated from the agency not more than 5 years, because anything older than 5 years, their relationships are probably too old and not relevant anymore, or they really, things might have changed. So 5 to 7 years separation is that's as far as back as I would go with some agencies. Anything older than that, they're not going to know the right thing to do. So what you're looking for in a capture manager is, have they worked for this agency, or have they been a contractor at that agency? They don't necessarily have to be an ex-government employee. It can be a contractor. But these roles are very different, and capture management is the bridge between business development and a winning proposal. That person is basically managing both sides. They tell the business developer, hey, I need some more help here. I need you to tell me which company we should team with, or can you help us find a teaming partner? And on the proposal side, they start helping with proposal strategy. A very common question I get asked, how much should I spend on bid and proposals? What is what is the spend rate? There is no set rule, and it depends how deep your pockets are and how important the contract is to you. But generally speaking, about 0.05% is what we see is a good budget that you should have. And so when you do your capture, when you eye those big contracts, you also have to budget the money you're going to need to put into capture management and proposals. And then you say, am I willing to spend this kind of money to make money? Am I willing to set aside $50,000 to make a $10 million contract? Is that $10 million contract worth the revenue, not just the revenue, but will it generate enough profit for me so that I can justify these BNP spends? A lot of companies say, you know, hey, I want to bid on this. I want to bid on this. They come to us and they say, give me a quote for this proposal. And when we give them a quote, they're like, well, that's too expensive. I can't do it. Well, you know, if you knew what that contract is worth, if that's the one you want to chase, you better be able to justify the BNP for it, because technical SMEs, writers, they are not cheap, right? So the proposals and capture, especially the capture side, can get very expensive. But the reward on the other end is that you would have differentiated yourself. You would be one of those proposals that ultimately, if you say you lost on price, would be for a real reason you lost on price, not because you didn't have any business bidding on it in the first place. So these are some of the investments you need to make in capture. I'm gonna skip through here so that there's time for questions. So resources to achieve capture objectives. Don't confuse your business developer with capture management. I think I've said this enough now, and their responsibilities are very different. The resources, agencies, retired staff, incumbent key personnel, very important, but also very risky. If you're going to go after an incumbent's key person that was, or an ex-employee who was on that contract, you better know why they're no longer on that contract. You don't want to bid a program manager that was removed from the contract as your program manager. That would be very detrimental. So, and this is easier to find than you might think. If you have a good recruiter, you give them the right direction, they'll find the right people for you. Obviously, ex-employees, as I mentioned, and then there are consultants who specialize in certain agencies. And so you can work with them. Again, I'm going to skip through the poll question. I apologize, but I think I've spoken about the mistakes that companies make when it comes to capture. You're expecting one person to do too many things. The second thing is lack of spending is what we see. Not enough budget. Companies go into a bid thinking it's going to be a walk in the park, it's cheap. It does. Now, you can always take into account sweat equity. It doesn't mean you have to go and spend hard dollars, but then you have to do that work, or your key person, you have to assign a dedicated person to do capture for that strategic bid. And that means that if they have a secondary responsibility, or they have some other job that will have to take will have to take, either they have to slow down on that, or somebody else has to do their day job. They can't do both. So you could cross utilize employees, and that's not a bad place to look at your own staff and say, who might make a good capture intelligence person. Arm them with the right tools. Give them proper direction on what it is you want them to find. This is where we come to objective-based capture. It's, if you don't establish objectives, nobody will ever live up to it, because they don't know what they're living up to. The frustration in business development and capture comes when there are no upfront objectives established between the two parties. You sit down and you say, okay, in 3 months, we should be here. Right now, we are here. In 3 months, we should have these 4 meetings, or we're not going to bid on these. Or in 6 months, we should have these key personnel hired and identified, hired, on staff, working on our proposal. If not, let's call it off. Let's not do it. Don't get into the game of, yeah, the RFP is not out yet. Let's keep it on our pipeline. It's not out yet. Let's wait for the RFP. Something might change between now and the RFP. Nothing will change other than there is some other company improving their chances of winning over you. So don't fool yourself and keep creating pipelines that are not realistic. All right, I'll go quickly into proposal strategy, not spend too much time. But the whole thing, the business strategy and capture, if you get those two straight, your proposals will automatically improve in the quality and the output. when a proposal manager at that point comes and asks you, why are we bidding on this? You will be able to answer that question very succinctly and in a differentiating manner versus, oh, we have the best people. We have good past performance. Our people are the most talented people that are out there. All good things, but none of these help create a winning proposal. It just doesn't work. So core elements that build a strong proposal. What does a proposal manager need? Whether you outsource it, you insource, you hire your own proposal manager, or you hire a proposal team. What is it that your proposal team needs? They want to know, what is it that we're trying to solve? What are these clients' problems? What are their hot buttons? What solutions are they looking for? And that is what your capture manager is supposed to do. Find that information. What are our differentiators? If you are starting to answer the question of what are our differentiators, once the RFP has come out, you're too late, because you can't even do anything to fix it. If you start 6 months, 8 months, 12 months ahead of time, you know that is my competitor and I'm going to win their contract the next time this comes out. You can work on differentiating yourself for a whole period of 12 months. But once the RFP has dropped, there's nothing you can do. Just not enough time for you to differentiate yourself. Versus you targeted an opportunity, built your capabilities, you were very narrowly focused. Your capture person was putting out white papers, sending out emails to the program manager, to the small business office, telling them how you're improving things in your company. You're getting your ISO certification. You're investing on CMMC, CMMI. You have time to differentiate yourself over your competitor, the incumbent, not when the RFP has come out. It's too late by then. And of course, what are our competitive advantages? The proposal manager needs to hear this from the capture manager, from the person who's leading this effort. Only then a writer can build a strong proposal. The proposal manager is not involved very early in some of these strategy discussions. And so making sure that information keeps feeding into your proposal team is very important. And if you don't yet have a proposal team, at least document all this information. There are so many times when we have worked with companies who spent money on capture, the person, did all this work and then they left the company right before the RFP hit. And when we asked them, well, what was some of the information shared? They're digging through emails. They're trying to dig through emails of what this person sent and sending us, 50, 60 emails saying, here, this is everything they shared with us. We have a proposal manager has only 30 days. You have 3 months, 6, 12 months. So please have realistic expectations, document these things, and chase after this information very early. So proposal strategy, not the proposal. Proposal strategy begins when you start capturing. Your capture manager builds the proposal strategy, not the proposal manager. The proposal manager may contribute, may help, but it's the capture manager that helps proposal strategy. All right, and then what is proposal management and what's the role of a proposal manager? Their job is to implement the strategy. The proposal manager's job is to capture and make sure the proposal very clearly brings out the differentiators. Make sure that the writers who are writing the technical proposal are capturing those win themes, the discriminators, they're addressing those hot buttons. That's what the proposal management function is. They're not coming up with a strategy, but they're implementing it to make sure everything gets into the written word. And of course, managing the process of keeping that proposal on track to deliver on time. So outcome of proposal strategy is not a proposal, right? Don't confuse the two. Outcome of proposal strategy is coming up with the proposal plan of how are we going to translate all this into a proposal. It sets the tone for your proposal team. They have marching orders, and all writers are marching in the right direction. And of course, the outcome is a proposal plan. So roles and responsibilities. Your proposal team cannot be one person. Your proposal cannot be written by one person. Your senior leadership is a sponsor. I'm using PMP terminology here. Capture manager is like the program manager. Your proposal manager is a project manager. Your capture will be across multiple proposals, but each project, each proposal has their own proposal manager. On average, a proposal manager can handle 2, maybe 3 with a stretch proposals at a time. If you are having your proposal manager do more than that, if one person is doing more than 2 proposals at a time, A, you're going to burn that person out, and 2, you are going to hit issues, compliance issues. There's no strategy. It's copy and paste. What did we do last time? It looked good. Our recruiting plan looked great in that one. Let's copy and paste in this one. These are the types of things that start happening. And that's when your proposal is not any better than the next person who responded to the RFP. It's not a winning proposal. It's a proposal. It's a document. So we want to avoid that. And then this goes into the proposal management process. Start with a kickoff, revisit the capture plan at this point. Your capture manager, whoever it is, never leaves the room, in the sense they're always involved in the proposal. But once the RFP has come out, they're more on the periphery. They just monitor that all the intelligence they gather is getting into the proposal, and they keep collecting new intelligence. That never stops until the day the proposal is awarded, almost until the day the contract is awarded. The capture manager's job of collecting intelligence doesn't stop. So then, you work on a schedule, make sure you assign enough resources, and implement the proposal plan. All right, so this was the giveaway that I was talking about. There's an email address here for you all. Happy to spend 30 minutes with you if you need additional consultation specific to your situation, if you'd like to discuss anything. I will be brutally honest, my job is not to sell my company. My job is to make sure I solve your problem. So if that means that I have a solution in my company, I'll be happy to share that with you, but the decision is yours. The point here is that we didn't want one-on-one specific questions during this session, so we're giving you an offline forum to talk to us. I'll share my contact information with anyone who'd like to take that down, and open to questions. I think I zoomed through that last piece just in time. All right, I don't see any questions.
Yeah, I think there's some questions in the chat.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. I don't know if they were sent directly or to everyone. I'm seeing one question where it says, where is the best place to identify upcoming networking sessions? BetaSam posts all of them. All the industry days are posted on BetaSam, but follow if you're on LinkedIn, and if you're not on LinkedIn, you should be on LinkedIn. A lot of the agencies are announcing their industry days on LinkedIn. So follow the agency that you're targeting so that you see them in your feeds and you hear about their networking sessions that they're having.
I see
Yeah,
one.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I see one additional question. It says, how can I get funding for mentoring program with Youth for Entrepreneurship?
I'm not sure what that means.
I'll take a crack at that.
That sounds like a grant question. You're asking if you can work on grants. Was somebody else going to take that?
I'll try to answer that. So this is Tommy. So when you talk about youth entrepreneurship, the couple of places I think of, and I don't have this information right at hand, but Department of Labor has some programs about youth, and in Commerce, probably the immigrations folks, if I got the right agency, and then you can try Department of Education.
Yes, I had a question, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, this is BJ Feline with Secure Media Incorporated. I want to follow up on the earlier question I asked regarding LPTA, and I think I want to probably tie this question to both Rena and Tommy. So, Rena, in terms of the explanation you were given earlier, I definitely appreciate that explanation in terms of not building a relationship just to sell our services. And I clearly understand that the whole purpose of building a relationship is to understand the customer's needs and to make sure that the solution that we have can in fact solve the customer's needs. I do understand that that's the purpose of building the relationship. Now, when Tommy made the comment earlier regarding how he'd been in the government arena for 40 years and so forth, and I take it that you were operating either as a contract specialist or a contracting officer, one of the questions we would ask is, because at the end of the day, we've taken the time, we understand the client's needs, we've studied them, we put together a proposal based on that intel, so on and so forth. We have a proposal that hits all the high marks, but if the decision is still based on LPTA, then it really doesn't matter how well my proposal is. I may rate high on the technical piece, but the whole essence is lowest price technically acceptable. So I'm technically acceptable, but they're still going to make the decision based on lowest price. So kind of deferring to Tommy, when you were in the government arena, what did a vendor need to say to you to convince you to make the opportunity best value as opposed to lowest price? Because I understand that sometimes you can kind of talk to the contracting officer to kind of let them know that it's in your best interest to make it best value and not simply LPTA. What did you need to hear to be able to make that, to be convinced and to be able to make that argument to the powers that be?
Well, first of all, I'm not so sure. Here's part of the process. So the acquisition strategy, before it even hits the street, determines what the contracting method is going to be, whether we're going to do best value or whether we're going to do LPTA. And that's based on a customer's requirement and how complex the requirement is. Because LPTA really should only be used when a customer can put clear, concise requirements on the street that are measurable and can be put in measurable and objective terms. So if you follow the federal government, we got hit a couple of times. I retired about 3 years ago. So in NDA 2017 and 2018, there were specific rules put in place that restricted, especially DOD's use of LPTA. And there are actually, 2017, there were 6 specific things that a contracting officer had to meet before they could use LPTA. And then in 2018, they added 2 more. And the clearest thing early on when folks were using LPTA, they were using them really with complex requirements that shouldn't have been used for. That's really the process. But to your point, what could you tell me? What could you talk to me about that would convince me? When I'm putting that requirement together, I hadn't even talked to anybody on the outside yet, because the requirement starts with the acquisition strategy. And Rena said earlier, I mean, when you're talking about standard procurement process, that's about a 12 to 24 month process that starts before that stuff even hits the street. Okay. So, and from a company's perspective, if I understand the government is using the LPTA and I'm going to meet the technical requirements and there's a minimum set, then I also got to be able to price my stuff to be competitive with the folks that are out there. Now, we know at times there are folks that lowball, but and potentially win the contract. But there's the checks and balances currently today. which wasn't always followed by contracting officers, is that price must be reasonable and make enough sense that even at the lowest price, that is not something that that the company would be able to do the work. So just because it's the lowest price, there's also an evaluation whether or not that price really makes sense for what we're being asked to do.
So I'm going to piggyback on Tommy, your remarks. Absolutely spot on what you said. And just to take it a step further is what we advise our clients is this. The end of the day, what is your rock bottom price that you are willing to do business for? If somebody else is going to win below that point, you should not have a heartburn, walk away and say, good luck implementing it. Because there are companies who get into this lowballing situation and the government does award it, even though, as Tommy said, there are checks and balances, there's a reasonableness check that happens, they still get awarded the contract, they cannot implement. And so do you want to be in that situation where you get cure notices? Do you want to be those contractors that can't find people because your rates were too low? So, there will always be those players, and especially if you're an IT company in the DC metro area, saturated with companies who do not understand how to do business with the government. And their rates are unrealistically low, where their wrap rates are below. We can't even understand how they're covering basic payroll taxes, leave alone payroll, right? So how did they bid such low rates? No idea. But at that point, we say, good luck, you can have that contract. That's all you can do really in that situation. And you'll see that those contractors end up getting cure notices. That contract comes back up in 2 years. It gets recompeted.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Vanat from Loudentech. I had a question.
Go ahead, please.
For Capture, I mean, there are solutions like GovWin and Bloomberg, but what would be a poor man's similar kind of a solution?
So GovWin and Bloomberg are not capture tools. They are lead generators. I personally prefer GovTribe. I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm just saying what we, Proposal Helper, we subscribe to Deltek, Bloomberg, GovTribe, FedMine. I don't know how many other subscriptions we have, because that's part of what we do is our BD support. We subscribe to all of those, but my personal favorite is GovTribe. I just enjoy that tool, and it's a very reasonable tool, but it's a lead generator. It's not going to do anything more than that.
I mean, the reason I was talking to Bloomberg, and because they really dig deep into the opportunity and point out to the org chart and all the incumbent and all the details. That's where I was coming from.
Yeah, and you'll find that almost all of these, databases are doing the same thing now. Just, the UI is a little bit different. One is more convenient than the other. FedMine actually does a very good job. They tell you where they get their information from, and all the lead generators are basically sourcing from government databases. They're just consolidating information from different government databases. So this is publicly available information that they are reselling to you.
So yeah, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes because everybody's got to earn a living, but every one of the paid lead generators gets that information from really now beta.sam.gov, which is the consolidated source that GSA runs, or you can go to acquisition.gov and they got agency forecasts there. That's where they're getting the information from. And so, and that information, if you went there yourself, it will have points of contact, who the incumbent is on the current contract, who the contracting officer. Now the contracting officer might be, dated because Rena mentioned this, I mean, people move. And so if that contracting officer was a GS 13 and then got promoted to 14, they went somewhere else. But those phone numbers, typically what I tell people, the phone numbers don't necessarily change. That's in the documentation because it's tied to that office. But so it's a matter of if you want to take the time yourself, if you have time, and pretty much most of the time, small businesses don't have that time, right? To do all that data mining and stuff that has to be done to build a pipeline.
Exactly. Thanks.
Well,
Thanks.
I'll tell you my experience. I'll share this with you because a lot of our clients subscribe to these databases. The first time you pay that big giant check to them, you're going to be watching the database every 2 seconds because what's new, what's new, what's new. After about a week, you'll probably be seeing that once a day. After 3 months, you're going to start junking those emails that come in, because you just don't have the time. They're lead consolidators. They're not what, and that's where, if you have a dedicated BD person or a dedicated capture person, they may find that useful. But I would rather just go to USA Spending or acquisition.gov and get specific information, targeted information without spending the money, and spend my dollars elsewhere versus getting bombarded by email. I mean, you can set up filters in Beta SAM and you'll get the same emails you're getting from them.
Thank you.
But I'd also say this to you, and Rena said this earlier, you have got to focus. In my day job, what I hear companies say, well, I want to go to 5 federal agencies. Well, guess what? For every federal agency, you name them, we just take HHS. Well, that's where CMS is actually housed. That's who they work for. And the money is not at HHS, but it's down at CMS. But there's an NIH and there's CDC. So who do you really want to go to spend your valuable time and resources? That has to be decided. And so when you go to the database, you filter to that point. Otherwise, you're just casting a wide net in the ocean, and eventually you catch something, but it may take a while. Okay. We got time probably for 2 more questions.
I have one more.
If there are any.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Moore.
Hi, how are you? Melvin Mooring from Polish Technologies. I wanted to ask, I do quite a bit of BD, and I feel like I need to duplicate myself. I'm trying to understand, and now I'm a weird hybrid that does the data-based BD, so I'm kind of a weird capture and beta and can hand it off to BD and hand it off to the proposal team. So I guess the question is, how do I vet someone who claims they're a BD and capture like me, but how do I vet them? I see you smiling, so I guess you have the answer to this, but how do I vet a person like this? Because I can kind of see BS, but every now and then I want to claim those skills because I still need the help, right? So I guess the question is, how do I vet someone who is probably better at capture than BD or vice versa?
And I'll let Tommy, if you want to chime in, but my answer to that is there is no honest BDer out there.
Okay, great.
I would rather work with, define what you want the BD person to do. I think the problem arises when people say, I want someone to do BD, but they don't know what that means. What are the specific tasks you want the person to do? Do you want them to be out there meeting with customers, or do you want them sitting behind a desk and watching GovIn, or do you want them to do both? What is it that you want the person to do? Be very specific, and more than defining the task, define the outcomes for that person.
Outcomes,
yes. If you can define the outcomes, then the person knows what they're working towards, and that relationship will work. But the problem arises when companies don't even know what they want out of this person. 6 months go by and they go, well, we haven't bid on anything. Okay, well, I brought you 3 opportunities, bid all of them. You know, so whose fault is it here? Then the finger pointing starts, the frustration starts. So I think you define what it is you want that person to achieve, and then give them the authority to make decisions. I mean, the number of times that we work with BD people who get excited about an opportunity, it's a right fit, and then they're like, yeah, but you know what? I gotta go get my CEO to approve this. The CEO doesn't even know what they're looking at. And they're like, no, I don't want you to work with this agency, no bid it. You haven't even looked at the opportunity, right? So those are types of things that create problem, and then vetting really makes no sense because none of you know what you're getting into. So I would say define your objectives, and if that person is willing to sign up to those objectives and say, yes, I can achieve these objectives, and have them tell you what do you need in order to achieve these objectives. If they can articulate that, then you know you got the right person.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bingo. I concur.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds
It is. Yep. It is now 2:58. You got a present at the end that I didn't know you were going to get. So take advantage of that sweepstake giveaway, right? That consultation. It'd be the most valuable 30 minutes you'll spend. We were glad we were able to bring this to you. Again, thanks to Gail Bassett, who actually put this together, and for Rena for accepting. And I think I know we've been asked. The slides will be available, Rena. We can that you provided. So those slides will be for everybody that registered and showed up today. You'll get the slides, and then the recording on my website at www.mbdafpc.com is where you'll be able to find the recording, along with other webinars that we have done that's got a host of information.
All right.
Okay, so again, thanks very much. And Claudia, if you would, or Kalala, type the website in the chat box. There you go, there it is. Okay, again, thanks very much for attending. And Rena, thanks. Gail, thanks for putting this together, and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Gail. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right.